again. It's your favorite San Antonio realtor here. I'm Stephanie Arneal with Keller Williams Legacy, and we're taking a little bit of a different turn today. I am at Thrive Mortgage, hanging out with the one, the only, the fabulous
Kierstin Wagner.
We're going to talk a little bit. We've seen a lot of homes. We've done a lot of the fun stuff, but I really want to take some time and help you guys understand the whole process. I don't know what you think, Kierstin. I feel like usually people don't understand how many steps there really are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's getting into buying a home is very intensive, to say the least.
That's such a nice way to put it.
Yes, but it can be very overwhelming if you're not familiar, at least in general, with some of the steps. So, we're definitely happy to talk about what goes into buying a home and what to expect, and help people be more comfortable with the process in general. So
great. Yeah. So if I were going to buy a house and I had no idea where to start, and I'm one of those people that's going to call a realtor, and my realtor says, "You're funny. What's the actual first step? What should I be doing?"
Right. A lot of people know to call a realtor first. I think that's just kind of the general knowledge of the world. A lot of people think, I'm going to buy a home, let me call a realtor. But like you said, in most cases, that realtor is going to say, that's great, I would love to help you, but first we need to get you pre-approved. Mm-hmm. So they're going to refer you to usually maybe a couple lenders so that you can, research who you want to work with. But yeah, they're going to send you to someone like me, a lender, and we're going to go through the pre-approval process first so that we can tell you and the buyer, okay, this is our direction. This is our purchasing power. This is how much this person can afford so that they can go out and find that dream home.
Yes. So there's a couple reasons for the pre-approval. Number one, as lenders and realtors, we never want you to set the bar off to think you can afford an $8 million home when really you can afford a $300,000 home.
Right.
We want to show you realistic homes for what your budget is and what your income's at and your credit and all the good things. And that way we don't show you too much or too little. It also sets you up to have a really strong offer. So when you find that dream home, we submit it with the offer, and the buyer or the seller, you're the buyer, the seller knows this is a qualified person. I should sell them my house immediately. So what does the pre-qualification process look like?
Yeah, so when we pre-qualify you, first step, for me personally, every lender is a little bit different. Personally, I like to have a conversation. I just do a phone call or a Zoom or an in-person meeting. I like to have a conversation with my buyers first. The reason for that is because then I can get to know what your goals are. I can get an idea of what you think your purchase price should be or your monthly payment in some situations, and just get a feel for the direction we're going. And then based off that conversation, I can usually tell just by asking a few simple questions if filling out an application is a good next step. Sometimes when you don't talk to a buyer ahead of time, they can get really excited about filling out an application, but then it turns out, okay, if we had just maybe had a simple conversation, we would have known, okay, we have a little bit of work to do first. So I like to have a conversation first, and then I'll have them fill out an application. Once the loan application is filled out, with Thrive, we have the super convenient app that everybody fills out their application on. And so once the application is filled out, we'll review the application, we'll review assets, we'll review credit, we'll review income, lots of different things. And then we can tell you, yes, you're pre-qualified for this amount, or, we have a little bit of work to do. We do also request some documents from you. Usually it's a little bit of pay stubs, W-2s, bank statements sometimes, depending on the client. So, there's a few steps that go into pre-approval process, but we'll either pre-approve you and we'll give you a purchasing power, we'll give you an amount, or we'll say, okay, you're not quite pre-approved yet. These are some things that we need to do. And we actually give you the steps that you need to take to get you where you can be pre-approved. We'll tell you where some of the kind of the problem areas are. So it's always a good idea to talk to a lender, especially if you're looking to buy a home and you're just not sure. Mm-hmm. You're like, I have no idea if I'm even qualified. This is getting pre-approved. Going through the pre-approval process is a really good first step to give you an idea of where you are.
So you're saying I should stop just sending people the link to your application? Sorry. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
Yeah, if your application pops up, I will still give you a call.
But yeah, the high maintenance realtors of the world just cause trouble, guys. It's okay. It's okay. It's what we do.
Yeah, we'll talk about this off camera.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so once Kierstin gets you your letter and says, okay, go out and here's kind of where you should top your budget out. Here's what your monthly payment would look like at this price point. Then kind of the fun part starts. Then we start searching and you start getting emails through MLS from me of all the different houses on the market. We start doing the fun touring, seeing all the houses. It can be exhausting, but it's also the really fun part. So we like to spend the time and really go through all the houses and figure out what it is that you want and where your dream is. Because our dreams are really just to help you make your housing dreams come true and to do it in a way that won't make you house poor at the end. You also still want to go out to eat sometimes, guys, and take a vacation once in a while. So
yeah,
we that's why we work together. Once you find the one, then the fun negotiation part comes in. I put on a different hat and we write up the offer. Hopefully it gets accepted very easily. If not, we do our contract negotiations and then say, yay, congratulations, you're under contract.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets real excited for you too.
Yes.
Yay.
We love a good under contract.
We love a good under contract call. So again, you want to make sure and have that pre-approval letter with it though, because they know then you're a qualified buyer and it's more likely to go through.
Yeah.
All the way to closing.
Mm-hmm. That strong offer we're talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The next steps, one of the things, there's several negotiable points. All things are negotiable in real estate, but there's several negotiable points that we talk about. And one of the big ones is things like contingencies in the purchase, whether it's how much the offer price, whether it's a contingency for you need to sell your current home before you buy the next one, whether it's
I need seller's concessions, maybe.
Thank you. I need seller help, money towards closing costs or to buy down my interest rate, because we all know interest rates are a hot button topic right now, guys.
Yes.
But we want to, it's all to protect you. And our job is to protect you in this process as our buyer.
For sure.
Then we start going through the option period, which you buy it into an option period. Typically, it's about $10 a day here. And we do 10 days, 7 days, 10 days. If we're feeling crazy, we go for 2 weeks. And that's when you do things like have a home inspection. And we bring in a licensed home inspector and they spend hours in the house, y'all, and just look at the house from top to bottom and find everything good, bad, and ugly about the house.
Yeah.
If you can, be there for the inspection. It helps you learn everything. Then we go back to the drawing board, we negotiate a little bit more and have all that kind of good fun again. I wear my business hat again and either get them to agree to make repairs or give you money off the cost of the home or towards the repairs that you need. Mm-hmm. Once we get through that and we're out of the option period, we're in what we call like a pending status. We're hanging out for a little while. We turn our hats back to Kierstin because we just kind of sit for a little bit, you and I, guys. And then you want to talk to us about what happens after we get through that process.
Yeah, and I do think it's important to note that during the option period, that's when your earnest money is protected. So when you get out of option period, then that's where if anything happens, you could potentially lose your earnest money. So option period is a really important time during the contract process. So once you're through all of those fun things and then it's handed off to me, like Stephanie said, sometimes it can be hard to be patient. Yes, because there's a lot going on behind the curtain, very Wizard of Oz style, if you will. So we are going to take that contract and we are going to start working on the loan side of things. We're going to start working on things like locking the rate in. This is a discussion that you will have with me. We'll talk about where the rates are, if we're going to do buy downs, things like that. We're going to get those rates locked in.
So do you mean that the rate you give them when you pre-qualify somebody may not be the rate they end up with?
Yes, Stephanie, that is what I mean. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, so rates change every day. Yes, good point. Rates change every day. So the rate that you get when you had your pre-approval, say it takes you, 30 days to find a home. That rate,
too much fun if that happens.
Yes, there are some programs where you can lock in shop and things like that. That's a video for another day. But as a general rule, we're going to lock in the rate once we go under contract and we have a discussion. Yeah. And there is some play in that, but we're going to talk in kind of generalities for this video.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to lock your rate, and then we're going to start working on things like disclosures. So you're going to get documents from us. Some of these documents are probably going to look like, Egyptian hieroglyphs to you because you're not used to seeing these things, but that's okay. That's what we are here for as lenders. We are going to walk you through all of these documents. They're called disclosures. And the most important things, you're going to get a lot of documents in these disclosures, but some of the most important things you're going to see are the loan estimate, which is going to outline kind of the loan details, the loan amount, if we've locked your rate at that point, what the rate is reflecting. It'll kind of reflect what your monthly payment is expected to be, as well as an estimation of your closing costs. And heavy on the estimation, this is a loan estimate. So none of these numbers are locked in yet, except for potentially maybe the rate, but all of these numbers are going to be changing throughout the process. It's merely designed to give you an idea of what you're going to be looking at overall in terms of costs and monthly payment and all that. So don't panic if you see your loan estimate and you're like, there's a lot of numbers here. What do I do with all of this? It's merely just to start getting you familiar with how everything looks. And we as the lenders will go over all of that with you and make sure you're comfortable with what you're seeing. So in addition to a loan estimate, you're also going to get a copy of the loan application just to make double sure that all of that information was accurate, because we don't want to get to the closing table and find out, oh, you own another home in another state. Whoops, I forgot to mention that, right? Little things like that. So
I should also note, during this time, please, please, please don't go out and change jobs. We don't encourage buying new cars during this time. No major life changes.
Yes.
Unless your lender signs off that, it's not that major and you can do it. We've had people show up on closing day with brand new $40,000, $50,000, $80,000 cars that they bought yesterday and think they didn't affect their loan at all.
Yeah. Just because you think, credit is extremely important when it comes to buying a home. Just because you think, oh, well, if I buy it the day before closing, it won't hit my credit. That's not how this works.
Right.
So definitely before you make any kind of purchases, especially if they're on credit, but in general, because we do have to verify funds in your bank account. So, we have to be very careful about purchases during this whole process from start to finish.
And changing jobs, your income, all that stuff matters more than you think it does, guys.
Yes, very much so. So yeah, before you make any significant changes, spend any significant money, basically before you pretty much do anything during this process,
you can eat.
Yeah.
That's it.
Eat, sleep, and breathing is fine. We encourage all of those things.
Anyway, sorry.
Yes, no, but that's a really good point because it does happen. So when in doubt, ask. Ask your realtor, ask your lender. We'll point you in the right direction to get you the right answer so that you know, because we definitely don't want something to happen on closing day. And then, you lose that dream of homeownership for a mistake that you didn't even realize, you could potentially be making. So very important. So once we get all the disclosures and everything signed, usually at that point, we're going to hand you off to our processing team. And there are some things that happen in between there, but nothing you really need to worry about on the buyer on the buyer side. That's all behind the curtain stuff, but we're going to hand you off to people called our processors, and they're going to work with another team called an underwriting team. Processors are usually going to be communicating with you at that point as a buyer. So you'll be communicating with your lender. You always have access to me as your lender in any situation, but then you're going to have additional communication with the processing team as well. And in Thrive's situation, it's usually only one or two people, so it's not going to be a lot of different people. You'll be familiar with that team, but they're going to help you get through some things called conditions. And conditions are little things that we just need to clear up in order to get that loan approved. So for some things that may just be verifying your employment history. We may have to contact your employer to say, hey, can you just verify that this person has been working with you for this amount of time? Things like that.
Sure.
So conditions are going to be addressed and cleared as we go. Underwriting is actually, they're the people who really build the loan. They approve when conditions get cleared. They check everything off, make sure we're following guidelines, because we have a lot of, if it's a government loan, like a VA loan or a USDA loan, where we have, government guidelines, or Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are the big entities. You may hear people talk about them for the other types of loans, like conventional loans. So they're the ones who are going to be going and combing through all of those thousands of guidelines for us and making sure that our loan falls within those guidelines and meets all the criteria, all the conditions are good. So that's a really important part of the process, because we want to make sure everything is legal and that you're not going to encounter any problems down the road. And like Stephanie said earlier, we want to make sure that you're not going to be house poor. That's why a lot of these guidelines exist. We want you to live in your home comfortably. So lots of moving parts there, but all you really have to know is you're going to be working with the processing team and myself to make sure we get all of those parts in place for you so we have a good solid loan and everything's good to go. At that point, once everything's cleared, once underwriting gives us the ominous dominus, everything looks great, everything will get submitted for what we call the clear to close. If you've done any research about home buying, you might have come across this phrase. It's a popular phrase in advertising and social media. We got the clear to close. That's our favorite words to hear.
It is.
Yes. And that just means that all of the conditions have been cleared. Underwriting has said everything looks good. We are cleared to close this loan and get these people into their home. So it's a very, very exciting time, but that does not mean that we are done. The clear to close is simply a thumbs up. Let's get you to the closing table, right? So at this point, is there anything else on the realtor side that they are going to need to do?
Well, so during the same time, the title company is also doing a lot of work for you. And that largely is a whole nother video, but just know that they're sending you a whole bunch of documents too. They're doing their title search, making sure it's what we call a clean title they can sell off, that there aren't any hidden sneaky owners that have rights to the property that we don't know about, that when you close, that this property will truly be yours. So you'll be getting information from them as well about title insurance. If you're buying a property within a homeowners association, they'll be helping get you all the documents for the HOA paperwork. Please, please, please read all of that before closing day and tell your realtor when you did, because it's really important to know what you're getting into. We don't want you later to get a surprise that your garbage can only be out for 4 hours a day or whatever. There's some crazy rules out there. Yeah. We want you to know them. And then kind of as we get close to closing, we all get excited. We set a closing date. Everyone's going to sign. We're going to take our turns. Typically, the seller goes to the closing table first. They sell the home, and then as a buyer, you come in and buy the home. Before you go to the title company and sign, we'll do what we call a final walkthrough. So we'll go in, make sure the house hasn't sprung any magical leaks, make sure all those repairs we negotiated are done, and that we've seen all the invoices of all the work, and that everything is exactly like it's supposed to be. And you will actually have to sign a paper that says, no, I'm good. This is still the house I want. This is still the condition it's supposed to be in. Let's do this.
Yeah. Because, sometimes you look at something for the first time and you're taking it all in, but doing that second walkthrough really does help you say, okay, I'm familiar with the space now, and I can kind of pay more attention to those little details that maybe I didn't appreciate before. So it's an important step.
It is. And honestly, if you want to go back to the property in between those times, all you have to do is let the realtor know. We can have access to the property. You just can't go into it by yourself until after closing day. The realtor yours truly is always willing to take you in, hey, my mom and dad are in town. They want to see the house and see what they think. And I just need another set of eyes. Absolutely. Please go through it. Spend some time there. I always encourage people to be in the house a couple times. Make sure you're really comfortable. Yeah. It's a big investment. Most people don't buy that many houses in their life.
Yeah. And I think it's important to just say, as a side note, if you go into a home that you've been under contract in and you just don't feel it anymore, it's important to communicate all of those things with your realtors. I think that's a pretty rare situation. I think people tend to make decisions pretty easily and pretty quickly, but never hesitate to communicate. If you walk into that home one day and you're just like, oh man, I don't know, I'm not sure. I don't think that's talked about enough. And so always communicate with your realtor. If you're in there one of those times and you're just, maybe having cold feet a little bit, it's okay. Stephanie especially is a great communicator in that regard. So always communicate. Yes. Always communicate your feelings and your thoughts. And because it's a very large purchase and it can be overwhelming emotionally as well. So,
absolutely. That's a great point, Kierstin.
Once the excitement wears off, sometimes you're like, wow.
Reality sets in and you're like, what am I about to do?
Yeah.
Is it jitters and we just need to talk through the jitters? Or is it really, it's not the right house and we have found reasons why we need to go back to the drawing board?
Yeah.
We're here in Texas, and in Texas, the contracts are very buyer helpful. There's a lot of ways out of the contract. You might be out that escrow money, that one, or the earnest money. Listen to me, the earnest money.
Yes.
So you might be out a couple $1,000s, but in the grand scheme of a house and not being in the right spot, is it worth it? We don't want you miserable. That's not okay. So once we get through all those jitters,
Yeah, we're clear to close.
we've done our walkthrough. Let's go to the title company. That's the fun part.
Yes.
Make sure you bring your driver's license. Make sure you bring your money. So for title companies, they like to get paid to give you the key. Let us give you the keys, guys.
Yeah. Money is a big part of this process.
Unfortunately, it is what it is. But we have to plan that in advance. Usually a day or two before closing, you'll get your master statement with a down to the penny. This is how much money you need to close.
That's your closing disclosure.
Closing disclosure. Thank you. And you either need to set up a wire transfer in advance, and the title companies are great. Everyone I've worked with, at least, great about sending all those instructions in advance. That way you can plan it, because you want to plan it in advance so that the money is there on closing day.
And it's very important to communicate with the title company directly to avoid things like wire fraud.
Yes.
So you want to be very clear and very sure about how that money needs to be transferred from you to the title company. So if you're ever unsure about instructions or anything, again, make sure you reach out and ask questions, because the last thing we would want is for there to be some kind of horrific mistake and the money is gone. And so
it's terrible.
Yeah. Avoiding any kind of wire fraud or anything like that's super a very important part of the process.
It is. And sometimes some people will choose actually to do a cashier's check.
Yep.
Instead of wire transfer. Totally fine. No cash, no personal checks at closing. Don't bring
your debit card.
Don't bring a debit card. Don't bring a bag with a dollar sign on it. It won't work, unfortunately. But we'll go through all that. You get all that information from the title company directly as well. So make sure you've sent your money. Make sure you bring us your driver's license. Make sure you've stretched out your hand muscles, because you're going to sign your life away. And some lenders, and you can speak to y'all's process specifically, will actually have you e-sign a lot of the stuff in advance. That way you don't sign quite so much in person.
Yeah, we definitely, especially here at Thrive, we try to utilize technology as much as we possibly can. So if there is an opportunity to do anything electronically ahead of time, then of course we will do that. But worst case scenario, you're signing it the day of closing. I do think that it's worth mentioning as well, when we're talking about closing disclosures, you will very likely get more than one. You're going to have multiple closing disclosures. So I always like to make that a point leading up to closing day. As the numbers are getting what we call balanced, meaning the lender's talking to the title company, each day kind of changes some of the numbers for certain parts of the transaction. So just be aware that it's normal for you to get different closing disclosures, and it's normal for those numbers to adjust slightly. We shouldn't see huge number changes, but it is okay if you're getting little different ones, and that's just so that we can make sure we're communicating as much to you as possible. But you will get one that is called a final closing disclosure, and that is going to be the end all that is all of closing disclosures, and that one will have the for sure final numbers on it once everything is balanced. So as a buyer, just expect that you might see multiples of similar documents, and that's all normal part of the process.
Yep. And we'll both make sure that you know when it's the final one, and no, pay close attention to this one.
Yes.
Your email has been flooded for weeks. Pay attention to this one.
Yes. Yeah. We will for sure guide you and have good communication for all of these things through the process. But yes, as you're watching this video, this is educational. So just understand that you're not going to be expected to just know all of that. We will be communicating with you on those things.
Right. Yeah. And every lender works a little different. One of the cool things about Thrive, and I feel this in my heart as a realtor, is these guys like to come to the closing table. You don't always get lenders who come hang out with us. You'll meet them in person. They come, they spend some time. We laugh, we cry. No, I'm just playing.
I cry
sometimes, depending on how the journey is. Then, guys,
tears. Yes.
And there's a misconception, or an older school of thought, I think, that you sign all the papers and then you have to wait a few hours while all the wire transfers happen, and then eventually you meet back up with your realtor and get the keys. But talk to me about how you guys do things.
Yeah, so again, every loan is a little bit different, but sometimes you do have the option to do something called table funding, which is when you sign all of the documents, and then right there you're able to, verify funding and take the keys. So it's a great option. It's so exciting to be able to just walk out with your keys and go and see the home. It's maybe not always an option for everybody, but in the situations where we can do that, it's great. And the nice thing is, if you can't table fund, usually funding happens pretty quick after that.
Like, go get some lunch and come back kind of thing.
Yeah, it's usually pretty fast. So yeah, you don't have to wait very long. You just have to contain your excitement, maybe just a few hours longer. But and any opportunity that we get, we love to table fund and just give you those keys right away.
For sure. And then we'll also do things, the work isn't done there, unfortunately. That's usually when I send out things like the homestead exemption form for the county to help you save on your taxes.
Sure.
You want to tell everyone that you've moved, do all your change of ownership notifications, transitional your utilities, all the services, start telling, the power company that you'd like power on at your new house, set up your moving. If you haven't already done that, call some movers, get all that arranged. And then just enjoy the home and go in and take care of it.
I kind of feel like that's all the fun stuff too, because now that the stress of closing is like, you're there, you've done it, turning on utilities, this just seems like such a small thing at that point. Like,
right. And honestly, you can, once you get the clear to close, you can kind of start planning it in advance, or call the water company and say, hey, have the sellers already scheduled to turn off their service? Because I'll just take over. And it kind of makes it a seamless process for you too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So that's pretty much the contract to close process.
Yeah.
And if you have any specific questions about anything that we talked about, we're always available to help you out.
And we'll put all our contact info up on the screen here in just a minute too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it can be a stressful process, but it's an exciting one. And when you have a great team to help guide you through it, it's easy. It's a great experience, a good experience. A great experience is always our goal. We want you to get into your home with little to no stress. And while we can't always promise no stress, we will do our stressful process. Yes, we will do our absolute best to make sure that you have an enjoyable experience and you can get into your new home and start moving forward with life.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all your help today.
Absolutely, anytime.
So once again, this is Kierstin Wagner, the one, the only, the famous, the fabulous with Thrive Mortgage. I'm Stephanie Arneal, your favorite San Antonio realtor with Keller Williams Legacy, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.